Let's solve question 79. Question is that Amit deposited 600 rupees per month in a recurring deposit account. The bank pays simple interest of 12% per annum. Calculate the number of monthly installments Amit deposits to get a maturity amount of this much. So they're asking about number of monthly installments that Amit had to deposit. So this is same as asking the time period of the RD account, for how many months this RD account was held. So if we look at the details, so monthly installment is given as 600, rate is 12%, maturity value is rupees 11,826. So they're asking the number of months n. I can look at the formula for maturity value, which is p into n plus I. Then if I substitute the values, n is unknown, everything else is known. So if I put that in the formula, I get this expression, this equation. Then if I carefully cancel out the common factors, I get something like 11,826 equal to 600n plus 3n square plus 3n. Then if I just add 600n plus 3n, I get 603n, and then 3, 603 and this number all are divisible by 3. I just divide by 3 to reduce it. Then I get a quadratic equation with variable n square plus 201n minus 3942 equal to 0. So after this, you can either apply your quadratic formula or you can factorize by splitting the middle term. So if you look at some combinations, you have to look at 3942. Product of two numbers should be 3942. So you prime factorize it. In the rough work, you prime factorize this number, and then out of those factors, you pick and choose. You try combinations so that you get two numbers and it has to add up to 201. So one will be a positive number, another is a negative number, so that product is negative, sum is positive. So out of all the combinations, plus 219 and minus 18, that will give the required sum and the required product. So then splitting the middle term, 201n as 219n minus 18n. Then if I go ahead with that further, I will get either n is minus 219 or n equals to 18, and n represents the number of months, the time period. So time is positive, so n has to be equal to 18 months, and in other words, Amit had paid 18 monthly installments. Then the question was to find the interest. So interest, anyway, I could have again used this formula for interest and plugged in the value and simplified it further. But I also know that interest is maturity value minus the money deposited, P into N. So that will quickly give me the interest, which is 1026 rupees. And then finally they're asking what is the total amount deposited, which is 600 into 18. Since I already calculated that as 10,800, that is exactly the money deposited, the total amount deposited. Then let's look at the next question, question 80 from shares and dividends. Question is that Aman has 500 100 rupees shares of a company quoted as 120, paying 10% dividend. When the share price rises to 200 each, he sells all his shares. He invests half of the sale proceeds in 10 rupees, 12% shares at 25 rupees, and remaining half in 400 rupees, 9% shares at 500 rupees. Now there are all these subparts that they're asking. First, anyway, is the sale proceeds. So when Aman is buying these shares, and then eventually he's selling all the shares when the price is increasing. So the question is asking sale proceeds means what is the money that Aman will receive from selling all those 500 shares. So for that, I can calculate the sale proceeds similar to sum invested. I need to look at the number of shares multiplied by the market value when he sold the shares. So he had 500 shares, and when the market value was 200 per share, he sold it. So this multiplied gives me 1 lakh rupees. So after selling the 500 shares, he is receiving 1 lakh rupees, that is his sale proceeds. Then half of the sale proceeds is invested in one type of shares, which is 10 rupees shares. So when they're asking what is the sum invested in 10 rupees shares, it is half the sale proceeds. So 1 lakh half is 50,000. So he is investing 50,000 in 10 rupee shares. Then they're asking what is the original income. So original income means initially he had 500 shares with nominal value 100 rupees and 10% rate of dividend. So that will give me the original income, number of shares into rate of dividend into nominal value of each share. So if I calculate that, I get original income of 5,000 rupees. Then they're asking you what is the change in income, because he had sold off the original shares and he bought two types of new shares. So you have to look at what is the income from those new shares. So let's look at the 10 rupee shares. One kind of shares were 10 rupee nominal value shares. And then to find the number of such shares, the sum invested was 50,000 and the market value of those shares is 25 rupees. So the number of shares purchased will be 50,000 by 25, which is 2,000. So he bought 2,000 of 10 rupee nominal value shares. Now income from those shares will be the number of shares 2000 into rate of dividend 12% into the nominal value 10 rupees, which is 2400. He also invested half the sale proceeds in 400 rupee nominal value shares. Now the market value of those shares at that time were 500 rupees per share. So his sum invested was 50,000 rupees and market value was 500. So he had bought overall 50,000 by 500, which is 100 shares of 400 rupees nominal value. Then income from those 100 shares will be 100 into the rate of dividend is 9% and the nominal value is 400. So if you calculate that, you get 3,600 rupees. So his total income from the two types of new shares is 2,400 plus 3,600, which is 6,000 rupees. So his previous income, his original income from the kind of shares that he had was 5,000, but then from the new kind of shares he is getting 6,000 income. Therefore his change in income is 6,000 minus 5,000, which is 1,000 rupees gain. He is receiving 1,000 rupees more from the new shares. So this part of the answer in the document is something else, but the correct answer should be 1,000 rupees gain. Then moving ahead to the next question. It is a question of linear inequation. So you have to solve the following inequation, write the solution set and represent the solution on the number line. It's a very typical question which have been asked many times in the previous years. So this combined inequation, initially you can split it into two different inequations like this. So you solve this inequation and this inequation separately. So from this inequation, this 5, if I move to the other side, I will have 11 plus 3x greater than equal to 15 minus 5x. Then minus 5x I can move to the left side and 11 I can move to the right side. So left side I will have plus 5x plus 3x greater than equal to 15 minus 11. So I'll get 8x greater than equal to 4, divide both sides by 8 and I will get x is greater than equal to 1 by 2. So that is one part of the solution, and the other part is 3 minus x greater than minus 3 by 2. Then I can move minus x to the other side and minus 3 by 2 to the other side. So 3 plus 3 by 2 is greater than x, which is same as 9 by 2 greater than x, or x is less than 9 by 2. And the replacement set was x belong to real numbers. So my solution set has to be written in the set builder format, where I'm saying x such that the range of values of x is greater than equal to 1 by 2 and less than 9 by 2, and x belong to real number. I have to write the solution set in this format. And for the solution set, For the number line, I have to draw the number line like this. So I have drawn a horizontal line first, and I have chosen 1 centimeter gap in between integers. Okay, and the range of values of x is from 1 by 2 till 9 by 2. 1 by 2 is between 0 and 1. 9 by 2 is same as 4 and half, so it's between 4 and 5. I also have to mark extra integers apart from what is there part of the solution. So one extra integer minus 1 and 6 I have marked on the number line, arrow marks on both the ends. And then because x is greater than or equal to 1 by 2, 1 by 2 I will mark a darkened circle. And 1 by 2 anyway, because I've taken 1 centimeter gap between 0 and 1, with my scale I will look at 0.5 centimeter. There I will mark this fraction 1 by 2 and I'll also write it. And I will make a circle and shade the circle, make a darkened circle, because x includes 1 by 2 also. But for 9 by 2, which is 4 and half, this is 4 and half or 9 by 2, I will put just a hollow circle. I will not shade inside. Then I will join the two circles with a line like this, and in between I will just shade this space in between, so that the solution represents any real number starting from 1 by 2 and all the real numbers all the way up to 9 by 2, but not including 9 by 2, just less than 9 by 2. Okay, moving ahead, next question is question number 82. Determine whether the following quadratic equation has real roots. Give reasons for your answer. If the equation has real roots, identify them. Now, whether the equation has real roots or not, that depends upon the discriminant of the quadratic equation. This is anyway given in the standard form, ax square plus bx plus c equal to 0. So I will first identify the ABC values. So coefficient of x square, a is 5, coefficient of x, b is minus 9, constant is plus 4. So then my discriminant value is b square minus 4ac. If I evaluate that carefully, I get 1. So discriminant is 1, which is more than 0 or positive. So I can say that the equation has real roots, and also because it's more than 0, it has real and unequal roots. Then they're asking us to find, if it has real roots, what are the real roots? Then this is my quadratic formula. I already have calculated my discriminant value. So according to quadratic formula, the solution will be x equal to minus b plus or minus of square root of discriminant by 2a. So I will substitute the values, and then I get 9 plus or minus 1 by 10. So either 9 plus 1, which is 10 by 10, or 9 minus 1, which is 8 by 10. So either the root is 1 or 4 by 5. So these are the solution, x equal to 1 or 4 by 5. Moving ahead, question number 83. They have given some data. Profit in rupees in a local restaurant and the number of customers who visited the restaurant are tabulated below for each week for 1 month. So week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, for these weeks, number of customers and the profit is mentioned here. You have to find if the number of customers and profit per week in continued proportion or not, and justify your answer, and then find the value of x and y. So if I look at the ratio of 1400 by 28,000 and the ratio of 5,600 and 1,12,000, first I need to check whether the ratios are equal or they are forming a proportion or not. So if I look at that, first week's data, 1400 by 28,000 is simplified to 1 by 20, and the other week's data also, 5,600 by 1,12,000, also simplifies to 1 by 20. So I can say at least that yes, the number of customers and the profit is proportional for the first 2 weeks. Now it is a proportion but not a continued proportion. For a continued proportion, I had to have these two numbers equal. Like proportion is continued proportion if it has a mean proportional. The mean terms over here, 28,000 and 5,600, they're not the same number, so it is not a continued proportion. If it was same, then I could have said that it is a continued proportion. Then since now I know that the number of customers and profit are in proportion, to find the missing values, I know that all the ratios will simplify to 1 by 20. So even for the other week, the number of customers x by the profit 32,140 should also be equal to the original ratio 1 by 20. So if I just calculate that, x value is 1,607, and from the other week, the number of customers 3212, and the profit, if I take y, that is also the same ratio 1 by 20. So if I calculate that, y value is 64,240. Then looking at the next question, question 84. Given 9x square minus 4 is a factor of this cubic polynomial, I have to find the value of m and n using remainder and factor theorem, and hence factorize the given polynomial completely. So I will start by saying that let the cubic polynomial be in the notation f of x, a polynomial function, and then 9x square minus 4 is a factor of f of x. I can again factorize this factor further, 9x square minus 4. I can write it as 3x whole square minus 2 square. So it is in the format of a square minus b square, and according to the identity it is same as a plus b into a minus b. So 9x square minus 4 is same as 3x plus 2 into 3x minus 2. Now since 9x square minus 4 is a factor of the polynomial, and if I factorize this further, I get 3x plus 2 and 3x minus 2. So even 3x plus 2 and 3x minus 2 are also factors of the same polynomial f of x. So then I can now apply remainder and factor theorem. You should always remember that remainder factor theorem are applied to divisors which are linear polynomials. That's the reason why I wanted to find out which are the linear factors of the cubic polynomial given. Okay, now let's say that I know 3x plus 2 is a factor. Therefore, according to factor theorem, the value of x for which 3x plus 2 is 0 is minus 2 by 3. So if I substitute minus 2 by 3 in my dividend, the result should be 0. So f of minus 2 by 3 should be 0, and I will carefully substitute the value of x as minus 2 by 3 in the dividend and equate it to 0. And then if I simplify it further, then I get an equation like minus 2m plus 3n plus 24 equal to 0. That is first equation. Then I also knew that I had another factor, 3x minus 2 is a factor. So for x equal to 2 by 3, that value is 0. So if I apply x equal to 2 by 3 in the dividend, again the result should be 0. Then I will carefully substitute x equal to 2 by 3 again in the dividend. Simplify it further, I get an equation minus 2m minus 3n plus 48 equal to 0. So I have two equations now with two variables m and n. You can now solve it simultaneously, whichever method you like. So here what I am doing is I am adding the two equations so that I can eliminate my variable n. I had plus 3n and minus 3n. So if I add the two equations, n will be eliminated. Then I will only be left with variable m. So I get m equal to 18. This value, if I substitute in any one of the previous equations, I get n equal to 4. So m, n values I was able to find out. Now the question is also asking you to factorize the polynomial completely. I could have taken one of the linear factors and then done a long division with the cubic polynomial. Quotient would have been quadratic. I can split the middle term and then factorize it completely. But since anyway I know 9x square minus 4 is a factor of the cubic polynomial, I can do a long division with that also. And if I do that, I'm getting my quotient as x minus 2, remainder as expected 0. So therefore, my cubic polynomial f of x is product of 9x square minus 4 into x minus 2. Now 9x square minus 4, I have already previously factorized it. So the entire factorization for the cubic polynomial will be 3x plus 2 into 3x minus 2 into x minus 2. So this is the polynomial factorized completely.